Yes.
Miss Lyons-Bricker,
Yes.
Miss Pernhage, Miss Acevedo,
Yes.
Mr. Regan,
Yes.
Mr. Hartwig, I'm sorry, Miss Hartwig,
Yes.
Mr. Gontina,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Miss Herzog.
We do have just one little issue. Is Carol still on? Oh, okay, great. Never mind. We're good. Okay, so the next thing is Aaron's report.
Okay, so I'll try to be brief. I know we have a lot to go on, but I have a lot to unpack because it's been a long time since we talked. But specifically kind of about water, recycling, and refuse news. Water, as you know, last we had talked, we had finished that last round, and we had from January 1 until the end of June to do testing. We haven't submitted that to the state yet. We're compiling our report, but all of our testing was done on time. So we'll formally submit that here in the next number of weeks. But by my calculation, it looks like we did exceed the action level again on this most recent round of testing, although it was lower. So depending on how you do the math, it's either like right at 15 parts per billion or about 17. So we'll have some additional public education requirements to kind of go through. We've sort of been around that. To that point, I'll be looking for more board assistance in drafting some of the plain language materials that we had talked about. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we want to do that in some sort of a work group, but there's some of the kind of template language that I still want to use to sort of cover ourselves, but definitely would like to work on some more readable materials for folks. With that, then also lead service line replacements. We have secured more than 100 access agreements, which is what's required. And we have now a contractor on board, thanks to SACWA. So actually beginning in August, we expect that they're going to start that work and probably within the month of August be completed to meet our goal of 100 for this year. If we can do more, we'll do more if budget allows. And then lastly about lead, the lead service line inventory. We hired in July a water system materials analyst is what we call it. It's a part-time position, but a former employee that's analyzing that, dissecting the silos of information and making it easier for us to digest. We're eventually going to try to deploy that as a publicly viewable dashboard to see a progress of where our inventory is. But suffice it to say, work is ongoing there. Related to before the shutdown, there was an email that went out from the board about having some of our old documents put up. They're actually on queue, ready to go live on the website, but we're going to be making some changes. But they're there. I found some historical information too to put up there, so that's there. That's it for water. Recycling, as you know, on the 23rd, we had on June 23rd, we had that drop-off event at Coolidge and 13. It was a record-setting event for the company that runs those, and they run them all across the state. 855 cars.
Wow.
It started at noon, and by 11:30, they were already backed out onto 13 Mile. They had to get police assistance, and ultimately, all of the SACRA offices, even the SACWA people, anybody that was non-essential, left the office and went and worked it because it was just such a turnout they didn't expect. They ultimately got rid of like 3 semi-trailers full of household hazardous waste and electronics. And incidentally, they ended up collecting almost 2,000 pounds of cardboard for them to recycle at the MRF, just from people bringing it there. So it was good. If it was, I guess, proof positive that people were kind of upset about the drop-off center being closed, which, as you know, has maybe not, has opened up now for appointments. They were supposed to make a kind of a bigger splash announcement, but I suspect they were trying to keep it mum to make sure they didn't overwhelm their appointment system. But now that is open by appointment, and you can book that at the SACRA website. There's a household hazardous waste and electronics event in Troy on July 28th. That information is also on the SACRA website. And, you know, to that point with recycling, they're trying to encourage people to not use the drop-off center if at all possible, just to keep those numbers down. And so the alternative is, you know, we should consider doing some sort of a fall event. And I know we had talked about that before. So SACRA is a willing partner in that regard. And then lastly, I just wanted to kind of shoot this one across the bow to begin with. DPS, we're looking really seriously at bringing to commission a proposal to do citywide refuse carts, which had been one of the topics that continuously comes up. We have the capability to do that now, and plastic prices are really cheap. And so there's actually kind of a window of opportunity to consider providing those to residents. And being that this board is involved in the solid waste items, I imagine there'd be some discussion here, and there would be certainly on my end some input that I'd be seeking from you about how to deliver those. I have some questions because there's any number of which ways we could go with that, but that's there. So that's what I have. I'd be happy to talk in any more detail on any of those items, but.
Question on the refuse carts.
What's that?
I don't know if you can hear me. I have a question on the refuse carts. What's the, I guess, the intended benefit of the city providing those refuse carts to the residents?
Well, it's multiple. Some people think that you can help some of the rodent situation by having that in there. You know, even raccoons and other animals that scavenge through trash. So a lot of it is just an aesthetics thing. People think it seems cleaner, you know, and more uniform. You know, that's generally where it comes from. There's been a push. I mean, I guess Commissioner Douglas would be able to speak to that a little bit more, but that was something that we get quite often on our feedback forms. What sort of items to look into?
Would it be that each address or each resident would get one container?
Yeah, as it stands, and those are some of the details that would have to be worked out if we were to go forward with this. How would we? Well, I know how we would deliver these, but what do we deliver to each household? How many options do we give, if any? There's some of those things that need to be hammered out if we were to go that route. So for sure, there'd be some decisions to be made.
All right. So a couple other comments then, just to kind of throw out for discussion. If you know, I think I support it first of all, but sort of under some caveats. I think if every resident were to be issued one refuse container that was sort of identified as the official refuse container, one of the thoughts that I've had was if residents were in need of additional containers, some sort of a sticker or permit type system, a nominal fee for those additional containers, to really it's really to serve as a deterrent to put out more than one container full of refuse and hopefully push more to the recycling or reuse stream. Mm-hmm. So just a comment to throw out there for discussion. I don't know from a city policy standpoint, because it's a third-party service that we pay through tax assessments, how that would be possible, or if it's even possible, but I just figured I'd throw it out there for discussion.
Yeah, multiple carts are possible. These things are really big. They're considerably bigger than the recycling carts, which are 64 gallon. These are 96. Sounds scary. They have the same footprint, so they take up the same room on your garage floor, essentially. They're a little bit taller. They're surprisingly easy to maneuver. I guess the option would be that if they went with this and there needed to be some alternative option, I would suggest offering this big 96 gallon cart to everybody. In that case, nobody would probably need a second, and if you did, it could be provided. And then if you really have objections to it or you really can't handle it, there's the option for like a 32 gallon cart as well, and that could be deployed after the fact. But things like that, those are the sort of discussions that would have to get hammered out.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to say, I don't generate that much trash. I barely have enough to put in. I usually, like last week, I had half of a tall garbage bag full of trash. So something like that would be overwhelming for me to, but I would have need, maybe once a year might have a need for something like that. So that's, and something, an alternative would be better if we can provide something smaller as well.
Does that have to be the defaults because of whatever contract you would use, or could we make the default smaller?
No, you could make it smaller, but with trash recycling, typically we fit in a 64 gallon. Most household trash for even a typical family, I guess it depends on how much you recycle, but they found that 96 gallons is usually pretty adequate. You can fit 3-4 bags of garbage in there if you absolutely need. Anything less than you run into, it doesn't really contain it, and then it questions it. Questions the utility of it, I suppose. But I have some other materials like to give some idea of scale, how big these things are and everything else that we'll pass out. And I didn't want to necessarily get into crazy detail with it today, but I just thought we never meet. So now would be the opportunity to let you know that that's something that's on the horizon and that we'll be talking about more. So.
Yeah, I'm just curious then, would that be an assisted, need a truck with an assist on it to dump something that large?
Yeah, all the trucks are equipped with it. So GFL would not require any sort of retrofitting of their equipment. They're ready.
Okay.
And that also wouldn't forbid anybody from leaving trash in a different type of otherwise approved container or just a bag even.
And kind of to touch on what Woody and Jennifer was talking about, if we did, I understand going with the bigger size because of just, you know, convenience or whatnot. But if we're supporting and we really want people to recycle and do other streams of taking care of their waste, is that a good look to be supporting a bigger trash can than the recycling?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I see your point. You know, I don't know if it would disencourage. I think people are going to recycle if they're going to recycle. Maybe. I don't know. But to go smaller, I would really probably generally discourage that because even among recyclers, people tend to generate more trash, it seems like. And so we would need a bigger container for it, I think. I think 96 should be the default, but and then offer alternatives, I suppose, but deliver the standard size to everybody. There's implications for all that. That's why the decisions have to be made because it could cost more or less to have them delivered. And then also from a point of handling these on an ongoing basis, we offer people several different options. All it takes is a home to switch homeowners, and that person doesn't like what the previous home cost, and now we're taking possession of this old cart and putting new ones in and that type of thing. So, but
I do
I'll
have
follow
another,
up with additional.
sorry, I have another question about that. I'm horrible at spatial, like, what does this actually look like? But I'm thinking of my parents, and would they be able to get a trash can in? It seems like it's higher than the recycling bin, which is already pretty tall. Is it?
It's pretty close to the same height. To make it 96 gallons, it really like widens out at the mouth, and it's kind of
Okay.
narrow as the recycle carts at the base. I do have a photo I'll send to Amanda, and she can pass it to the board where I had a fellow friend of mine in a different city take a picture of himself or standing next to it to give an idea. So I'll pass that along through Amanda.
But one last comment. I know that I think this group is probably an exception, but in our household, we fill up our 64-gallon recycling cart.
Woody, you're
like-
cutting in and out. Sorry.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
I think it was how far away. So I was saying in my household, we fill up that 64-gallon recycling cart like 2 days after it gets and we produce, maybe one trash can worth of trash every week. I certainly am in favor of getting, standardized carts and receptacles out to folks, but I'm not necessarily in favor of the large size for the trash. I know it's not necessarily possible, but I'd prefer my recycling bin be 96 gallons and maintain the trash at, I think 32 is what's currently allowable as the maximum size. I'd almost be in favor of sort of, if we're going to get trash receptacles out to folks, that we stick to the smaller size with some sort of maybe longer term plan of increasing the size of the recycling receptacles, really in an effort to get back to what Amanda's point was. We really want to encourage people to throw out less and recycle and reuse more. And, unfortunately, sometimes you have to do that sort of through policy and economics. So, current trash service, current sizes, that's all still going to be there for folks. But if they require more than that, that there be some small fee for that additional trash need that they have. So yeah, in general, I'm in favor of standardizing and getting receptacles out, but I think the trash should be, quite a bit smaller than our recycling. And I'd like to see a long-term plan to increase the size on the recycling. If it's so easy to get a large trash cart, it should be just as easy, I would think, and economically viable to get a large recycling cart. I'll get off my soapbox.
Internet connection, everybody? I see frozen heads. Uh-oh, it might be me. There, it got a little bit better.
Shar, did you have a comment?
Yes, all due respect, but this horse left the barn a couple years ago. This move has been in the works for at least that long. And Aaron is new to the job, but the city's been planning this for a long time. I don't see us changing the size of the bins. I think there's a reason for the size that they are based on sort of best practices. So I think we're going to have the 96-gallon bins.
I caught that, but everyone's video's breaking up, so I don't know if people can hear me. It's coming in and out a little bit, but I heard both sets of comments there, and I don't know if you can hear me now.
Yeah.
We
We
can
can
hear.
hear you.
Okay.
Okay. Aaron, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, that's all I have for right now.
Okay, then we'll go on to the city commissioner Shar's report.
So a lot of, I mean, the kind of two topics right now are the move into the new building and marijuana. Aaron, I think are you on the move committee or part of that decision making? You might want to talk about our plans for when we move and how we move and what the protocols are. Is that in your wheelhouse?
It is to a limited degree. You know, we don't have much to move, so I mean, I sit in on those. Are you talking about in terms of how it will affect our ability to meet? Is that what you mean?
Well, no. So I'll start and then you jump in.
Okay.
So it looks like we're going to be moving into the new building. The move should be complete by August 20th. What that means is, and you may have heard that they decided not to reopen the old city hall and establish protocols there, just to turn around and do it in the new building. So it means that the city's telephone systems will be offline from about August 11th through the 20th. Obviously not the police systems. Emails and digital communication will be in effect. And oh, you know what? I should be kicking this to Julie. She's on that committee. At any rate, they will set up, obviously systems to be able to communicate with city staff. But that's kind of that's what's going to happen. Julie, you're on that committee, right? Do you want to add anything?
I don't really. I hadn't heard of the move-in date yet. So the group that Aaron and I sit on, we're like kind of detailed with HVAC systems relative to COVID.
That group, I
So-
thought you were talking about, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we're reopening in that way. We're part of that reopening work group. So I don't have anything else to add to the general information.
Okay, got it. The other question is marijuana, and I guess I'm going to ask how much do you want to know? How specific do you want me to get about 2 city commission meetings totaling about 10 hours of time?
Whoa.
Just the highlights.
Just the highlights.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Well, so the city commission voted 5-2 to allow 2 retail establishments in the city and 2 micro businesses, and one of each of those can be on Woodward, and the other 2, all 4 of them could be in industrial zoning, or up to 2 of them, one of each, could be on Woodward Avenue. We're also allowing 1 each of all of the commercial industrial uses: growing, processing, testing, etc. They will have to be a certain distance apart from one another and a certain distance away from schools. The commission approved this on first reading last Thursday, and then we'll bring it back for a second reading and final approval on the 27th. How's that? Questions?
Great.
Shar, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you just repeat? It was voting, 5 commissioners approved to allow 2 retail establishments in the city. And what were the other things called?
And 2 micro businesses.
Micro businesses.
Right.
Got it. And then the other one it's called a full, I'm sorry, I'm real ignorant about this stuff. It's called a full grow.
So there are also establishments that are on the production end of it: growers, producers, testing agencies, and will allow 1 of each of those, and they only may be in industrial zones.
Got it.
So no other questions. I'm going to say smoke them if you got them.
And what about your immortal souls? Because God doesn't like marijuana. I was listening to some of those phone calls.
I just got to add, Tom got quoted in the Daily Tribune from his phone call referring to all of this as reefer madness. Good job, Tom.
Was an imposter.
All right. Well, on that great note, we'll move on to the greenhouse gas inventory update. Julie's been super busy over this COVID time working on all of this stuff for us. I don't know if Paul was trying to make it into Paul Vial was trying to make it into the meeting, but I don't know if he actually got in. And I don't know if Alexus Champion was able to join us too, but they've been joining Julie in this mission. So Julie?
Thank you. Amanda, I see Paul's name there. Paul, can you unmute?
Oh, great.
And Alexis.
Did that work?
Yes.
Did that work? Can you hear me? Okay, very good. So yes, I've been listening. I'm on via phone. So, yeah, I'm on. Just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Alexis won't be joining us tonight. Okay. So just a quick overview. I wanted to let you know that we were able to start the greenhouse gas emissions in the last fiscal year for about a month and a half. They allowed us to prorate a purchase and get started. So Woody, thanks again for that comment that got my wheels turning about, you know, asking them to work with us because it did in fact work. So we've been digging around for the data, electricity, gas, street lighting, any kind of item that produces greenhouse gas emissions. And we're still in the position of waiting for various items to be delivered to us. And Paul has been very helpful in looking at the software and helping understand, you know, what are some of the factor rates that we need to use for transmission lines and gas fugitive emissions and things like that. So just a, you know, a general overview. We started working on it. We hope to have time to continue on, and I think by the time our next meeting rolls around, we'll have more to let you know about. So I would open this up for Paul if he wanted to make a comment about anything in particular.
Sure. Yeah, just, you know, so I think you should probably add, we got what we believe are the majority of data, or at least in terms of community-wide data as well as municipal data as it relates to natural gas consumption and electricity consumption. And also it's community-wide, it's divided up in industrial, commercial, and residential. And you were also able to get information as it related to street lighting. So that's all I would add.
Okay, and actually you made me think of something, Paul, thank you. We will be doing an inventory for our municipal greenhouse gas emissions and the community-wide. So we'll be able to pull out municipal numbers quickly because, you know, of course we have an easier time moving changes within the municipality operations than we might in the community-wide scale. So we wanted to make sure that we are able to divide those up properly. And then Amanda, one other thing, you mentioned that you met a woman at one of the local meetings, Treva, and I would be more than happy to, you know, talk to her also if she's interested in, you know, volunteering in some way.
Great, and I'll connect you guys.
Okay, great.
And then this will kind of lead into, when we're ready, to the climate crisis and greenhouse gas resolution. And on there, we put that we would have this inventory set by September 30th. Do you think that that's still a doable deadline? Do you want to
Yes.
talk a little about that?
Yes, I do.
So the last time we met was in February, and we had voted on the resolution, but there have been some changes since then, or we noticed that there needed to be some changes, and we were going to make them for our March meeting, but then we didn't have March meeting. So I think there's been some changes, and Julie, do you want to go through those changes, and then we can take a vote on or make any adjustments that we
Sure.
need to make?
Sure, I'd like to share the screen if possible.
Sure, you should have access to do that.
Okay, let's see. Not yet. Okay, now I do. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, can you see my screen?
No.
All right, let me try something else. Screen two. How about now?
No.
Okay. How about now?
Now we do.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's see. And this is the other one. Ugh. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not, for some reason, I'm not able to open the one I want to open. Okay, sorry, give me just a minute. Let me go back here. Okay. Now do you see the screen with purple and pink and red?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, so when we met in February, we were actually in the process of getting the EAB ordinance submitted first and the climate emergency or climate crisis resolution second. And well, what came up was in the EAB ordinance, a couple items needed to be changed, and it was mentioned to me the day after our vote. And since we haven't had a meeting since March, that one is also available for us today. But while we had the time to, wait on getting the EAB ordinance in place, I also thought it would make sense to review our climate emergency document, because we really, in the beginning, took a lot of it from the Oakland County climate resolution. And so one of the thoughts was to see if we could figure out more local information and tie it closer to what we experience here. And so Paul helped out with that, using some data from the NOAA and the Detroit Metro Airport. And so you can see on the side here the comments that we used back and forth. And so since you've had this for a while, I think instead of going through every one of these, perhaps we can just talk about the ones that you might have questions about. Because, another reason we wanted to do this is that we have backup documentation, we have justification for the numbers that we have right now in this resolution, if there are ever questions. So I guess I would open it up to anyone who has a question about the changes that are marked here.
Shar?
Yeah, I had one editing correction, and that's in the third paragraph, the second line. The word cited is spelled S-I-T-E-D when it should be C-I-T-E-D.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you very much. So anyone else with a question or a comment about edits here? So then I would like to ask a couple things, actually. Let's see, this needs to be spelled correctly. Oceanic. So there's a question about whether we call this a climate crisis or a climate emergency. And I did a little bit of research today to figure out, you know, which one makes more sense. Sometimes we're hearing these called climate crisis resolutions and sometimes climate emergencies. And I wonder, does anybody have a strong feeling one way or another? Okay. Well,
Woody,
what do you, oh
are you
yeah.
trying to talk? You're muted.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. I was just going to say, I prefer crisis doesn't seem, I guess, dire enough to me, whereas emergency seems like, just from a terminology standpoint, I guess it's a little bit more serious.
Okay. I was at first interested in changing it to climate crisis, and then COVID happened, and we hear COVID crisis so much. You know, in some ways, I don't want it to get tied too closely to COVID. So I would also at this point vote for taking it back to climate emergency like we had it on the first draft.
And I just want to point out to our neighbors in Ferndale just declared a climate crisis, and they did a resolution too. So I think it could go either way.
Yep. Okay, well, I'd love to have some help, you know, making this decision. So
I have a question too, because I just did a quick Google on what one would mean over the other. And it was saying that a crisis is a decisive, difficult, or unstable situation that involves an impending change. An emergency is a situation posing a serious and immediate risk to health, life, or property, which often requires urgent intervention. And to me, they're both like, you could call it either one, but I was just trying to figure out, well, what does one mean over the other?
yeah, I'm on that same website, I think, because the second part of that is an implication, and it says a crisis is a negative change, and an emergency is a situation that needs immediate intervention. And so, you know, makes me feel a little bit more like emergency also.
Shar, from a commission standpoint, does it matter? Is there, I guess, weight in either term?
Not so far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion either way. So.
All right, then I would opt to change it back to emergency.
Okay.
Okay. All right, and let's see. So this other one I have on my screen, I found Oceanic. And then also this whereas other Michigan cities, I added Ferndale because like Amanda said and Jennifer sent over today, Ferndale just approved their climate crisis last Monday. So we have another city to put on here. then, okay, and then in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth one down, Paul and I noticed that this per year language should be removed. It's not per year, it's per annually averaged 30-year periods. So we'll just clear that up. So that's all we have for adjustments. And if we can put the question back out to everyone, is there anything else we want to adjust, edit before we call this the final draft to send on? It sounds like we'll be able to submit this tonight for the 27th meeting.
Any additional changes, guys? Okay, so then should we take, or should I, a motion to have, like a vote to submit this to the commission, with these changes? Is there a motion?
Did somebody make a motion? Or,
I'll move.
Okay,
and I'll second.
great.
Roll call.
Right, Aaron?
Ms. Herzog,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Gontina,
Yes.
Ms. Hartwig,
Yes.
Mr. Regan,
Yes.
Ms. Acevedo,
Yes.
Ms. Perrenhage, Ms. Lyons Bricker,
Yes.
Ms. Lemmy,
Yes.
Ms. McMahon,
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll send that on for the July 27th commission meeting. And so then we'll go on to the Environmental Advisory Board and the Royal Oak School Partnership. Woody, would you like to take?
Yep. All right. So basically where this idea came from was I am a citizen member on the Finance and Facilities Committee for the school board. And at the last meeting, they were having a discussion surrounding potential future. And the explanation was somewhat complicated in the sense that when ultimately, I'll spare you the details of it, but ultimately, if and when they do go out to the voters for this, it's going to require a pretty substantial educational campaign to make sure that everyone understands what they're trying to accomplish with it. And so the idea came to me about the Environmental Advisory Board partnering with the school board to help them get their message out, explaining what this ballot language means in terms of the vote in November. And I kept thinking about it and thought to myself, well, in any good partnership, obviously both sides get something. And one of the thoughts that came across my mind was, if this was something that this group deemed, that it was possible that we could help them with, we would do it in exchange for the school board agreeing to increase their percentage spend on sustainable activities by whatever number we can agree to. That, of course, would have to come with quantifying what they currently spend on sustainable initiatives, which I don't know if they actually earmark things that way to be able to identify it. But I wanted to bring at least the concept or the idea to this group in terms of partnering with the school board on something like this for discussion. And if it's something that we would like to pursue, I can begin to do that. But forget, bring it up and leave it open for discussion.
Woody, I'm sorry, you were going in and out a little bit at the beginning. So you said that you're on a finance committee?
Yes, so the school facilities and finance committee,
Okay.
it primarily talks about, the bond construction work that's happening. But as part of that discussion, there was, or part of the meeting, there was a discussion on potential language for a bond ballot measure in November.
Thanks for the
This
clarification.
November? Woody, this November?
Pretty sure it was this November.
Hmm. I mean, that's not much of a timeline. You know, I'm a former school board member of 12 and a half years. So this is interesting to me, but while I think that the school district would appreciate any help, I'm not sure about the authority of our group to do this. You know, the city and the schools are separate; they're run separately, and I don't know if our group, and maybe I'm getting too particular here, but I'm not exactly sure about this partnership to promote a future bond proposal.
Well, I guess the in my mind, like it was more the partnership, at least the responsibility from our end would simply be to help get their message out, not necessarily advocate for a vote in any direction per se.
Oh,
But in the reason it came to mind was, you know, I was part of the discussion and it was being explained by whatever third party firm that's helping them create the language. And even through that explanation, it was somewhat complex and complicated to me to understand. You know, what we were discussing, I was in favor of, but it occurred to me that, you know, I'm, you know, somewhat of a layman getting the explanation, and it was still complex. What are the voters going to face if they had to, you know, be educated on the same language? So it occurred to me that if we were so inclined, we as this body could offer the assistance of getting the message out to help clarify what the that language meant, in exchange for you know, the board agreeing to allocate some increased spend of budget to sustainable activity. Or if they don't have that budget identified, you know, in exchange for an agreement to actually identify a line item in their budget specifically for sustainable initiatives.
well, when I was on the school board, there was a city school liaison committee. I don't know if there still is. I'm assuming there still is. Yes. So it sounds like something that should really be discussed at that level. Just my feeling about it. Not like I'm not officially on the school board anymore. I am on the Royal Oak Schools Foundation, and so I still am involved in supporting Royal Oak Schools. But I don't know, Shar, do you have any comments about what would be the appropriate path? I don't think our committee can work out a deal with the school board. But anyway, just my thoughts.
Well, just one point of note, the discussion that I want us to have today is whether we think this is something that should be pursued as the Environmental Advisory Board. If that's something that we agree to, then I'm happy to figure out how we go about doing that. So before we jump into the details of the, you know, policy decisions and all that, I guess I just wanted to get this group's take on, do we think this is something that we want to try to pursue or not? And if you know, we're in the affirmative, then I can certainly take on, you know, what are the steps necessary or who to talk to kind of get this ball rolling. But that's really what the discussion I wanted to have today was, is this something that we think we want to try to do?
Hi, this is Julie. I think in general, as much sustainability work we can help facilitate is, you know, I think that really falls in our purview. I think it is a good idea. I'm not exactly sure how the relationship between the city and the school district is, you know, with, and not that it's a bad relationship, but what the technique is to, you know, do these partnerships together. And so I would defer to Shar and the school liaison group. But I mean, if you think about the school, if they start doing sustainability stuff, I mean, all of the kids who are in the school hear about these things. So it's, again, you know, educating younger people about these issues so it's not a surprise, you know, because we really need the younger generation to move forward, you know, even further than what we are trying to do here, right? And so in general, I am a fan of pursuing this to see what we can make work.
Yeah. And the school may have some metrics on sustainability since they have the, what is it, the Green School Award. So I know that the school board should have some metrics associated with sustainability. I don't know what to detail, but it may be a place to start if we so opt to go in that direction.
Right. I'd just like to mention one more thing, and that is the schools are really struggling right now to deal with COVID-19, and they've had to develop numerous options depending on which phase the state of Michigan is going to be in by the time school starts. So while, you know, this might be something interesting to pursue, probably right now is not a good time. I think they're pretty busy trying to figure out how they're gonna start school. So yeah, but I still think that it should be something that should be brought up at a city school liaison committee meeting. Again, and maybe I'm being too picky, but I just think that's the proper way to address it.
And I don't know if anyone saw the chat, but Jennifer did help shed some light on the timing. It would not be for this November ballot because the ballot might need to be approved by now. So that's actually a positive in my mind in the sense that we have a little bit more time to figure this out. I'm going to, I guess, propose to this group, if everyone's amenable to it, the school board president actually lives a few doors down from me. I can certainly have a very informal conversation with him about this. Just to gauge the temperature of if it's something that they're willing to have a conversation about or they don't have time because of the COVID preparations that you just mentioned. But to me, in my mind, that's maybe the next best step is to have some sort of an informal conversation as to whether or not this is something that the school board would be interested in having discussion on. Because if they're not interested, obviously we can't get very far.
Aaron, Greg used to attend those meetings. Do you now? No? Yeah, I'm a you know, a little bit leery of us going to the school system and saying, hi, we're from the government, we're here to help. So, you know, maybe you know, Woody's conversation over the back fence and a beer with Gary might be the way to go. But I do think it's really going to be more staff driven than board driven. I don't know how much of a policy decision this is. But it sounds like, Woody, you're in the right place on the committee. That, I mean, what did the people on the committee that you serve on talk about, or have you discussed it with them?
So the partnership piece I have not discussed with them. I did, like I said, I wanted to bring it to this group first to kind of gauge if it's something we were interested in. I will tell you though that I individually sort of raised my hand and volunteered my time to help them get the message out, as well as one other individual. That was received very well, sort of in the we'll take all the help we can get sort of response, which is kind of what made me think of the fact that, oh, well, you know, we have mutually beneficial goals here in the sense that, you know, I think what they're proposing we would want as a city and as a board. I think our body does have some influence, and we do, you know, have some audience for outreach. So, you know, I didn't necessarily approach the school board, that group, with it at all yet, because I want to make sure this group was okay with it. But I can certainly do that informally.
And I'll further ask, so would we be a technical resource for them, or more of an advocacy role?
So in my mind, our responsibility would simply be to spread the message that they've created. So we're not necessarily going to have input into what the ballot language would be or anything along those lines. It's more, you know, for lack of better terminology, helping to provide them bodies to get the message out that they are creating and they are responsible for. And that, of course, would only come along with if we agree with the language and we agree with what they're actually pursuing. If at any point we're not in agreement with it, obviously we wouldn't want to support it.
Yeah, I'm going to say if you're specifically focused on a ballot initiative, then I think we should stay far away from that. We as individuals may want to volunteer for the political campaign, but other than that, I don't know that it's appropriate for us as an organized body to be involved in a ballot issue.
Right.
That's precisely some of the feedback I wanted to get out of this discussion, whether we thought it was, blurring lines that we shouldn't be blurring. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, so what do you think your next steps are on this?
Well, I still think it would probably make sense for me to just very informally have a quick conversation with my neighbor about maybe a more generalized topic of how the Environmental Advisory Board can help support the school board in messaging, initiatives, whatever it may be, to help develop that partnership in exchange for us helping and guiding them on increasing their sustainable initiatives, and just see where that conversation goes.
I would say members of the Environmental Advisory Board, not the board itself.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well, okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Woody, for bringing this. I think that with COVID, we're going to have to be impactful in other ways, and finding ways that we can partner with different committees and different boards, I think will help our group get our message out too. So, well, before, think about that while we move forward in this new age, new time.
Yeah, and I do think, sorry, my Wi-Fi went out, so I'm sorry if you already talked about this, but I do think we do need to partner with this group a little bit better. It's, all the bond work that they're doing right now may have allowed for some more environmental work at the time, and we probably didn't have any discussions at all. And I understand that some people equate environmental work to more money, yet at the same time, you could push that, no, it actually will save in the long term. And I understand the return on investment for solar is still kind of iffy, but like even just rain gardens or something like that, serves as an educational purpose. So if there's a way we could form some kind of partnership or just invite them to a meeting and we could get some discussions going, that might be good.
I think you make a great point, and certainly right now, resilient and sustainable buildings lead to healthier buildings, which is certainly, a very strong topic of discussion right now, obviously.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the next thing, the Environmental Advisory Board Ordinance. Julie, you want to take the lead on that again?
Sure, I will try to share a screen with less technological trouble here. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Okay, can you tell me which screen you see?
I see the ordinance, that 2020.
Okay, great. Great. So again, there were just a couple language tweaks in here. Nothing substantial was changed. I added energy waste reduction as one of the sustainability efforts. Next, there was a word change that I missed. The commission should be changed to the board because that's will be the formal term. So number 6 is where the problem was, and it was talking about the initial board and having 3 members appointed for 3 years. Because we were already set up, my previous boss said the new language should be what is in the sidebar here. about initial board should be made up of those serving on the existing board effective of the date of this ordinance, so that we don't have, you know, disconnecting language. So that was one of them. And then he also said that he thought this letter B should really be A because it makes more sense to come first. And then apparently there is some kind of a training or a policy to remove gender references. So we've taken out chairman, and you know that becomes chair, and that is it. Any questions? Any edits that I missed? Any additional changes anyone wants to make?
And then what is the process? We're gonna do the climate emergency for the next commission meeting, and then the following one, we'll do the first read on this. This has to go through 2 reads, is that correct?
That's right, it needs 2 reads. And I talked with Aaron about these because he's the one whose name is attached to these resolutions. And Aaron, because you thought the 27th was going to be a full meeting, you mentioned that it probably makes sense to be 2 weeks later. Did I get that right? You're still on mute.
Yeah, it would be a matter of, I mean, we could suggest it, but ultimately when Paul Brake reviews it, you know, there's a good chance that he would want to push that off just because of the content at next meeting. Yeah. I mean, that's
the climate emergency will be the July 27th.
Yes.
Okay. And then push off.
This is going to need some additional review from, excuse me, sorry for that. From Dave Gillum, am I correct? Even once you make these.
He has already looked at it because he was the acting city manager when I brought this. So he has seen it and has helped me edit the old stuff out.
All right. I just know would probably need to run through him one last time. I don't know if that takes him any time or not.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure it does, but how long? So.
That's fine. So within the next.
Now, well, the one caveat I could say is that tomorrow, I mean, there's a staff meeting. I can mention it and offer that to Paul to say, you know, we could push it back if he thinks it's too much and leave it up to him, and we might find out that it's okay. Would this be in final form and ready in the next day or two?
Do you mean for the August 10th meeting?
No, I'm saying for the 27th.
Oh, you know what? I was thinking of the August 10th.
Oh, okay.
Just because you mentioned and somebody else did that the 27th is probably going to be a very long meeting with all of the public comments. And
yeah,
so in an effort not to overwhelm.
Right, and I'm just saying that there was the possibility that if this could be ready in time between like tomorrow and like Wednesday-ish, if we get a final form, I could at least tomorrow at the agenda meeting pitch it to Paul to say, can we include this? Because I believe the other item that we're talking about is on the consent agenda.
Yep.
So unless it gets pulled, it wouldn't really slow things down too much. So, I mean, is that something you'd like me to ask Paul if he's okay with that? And would you want to do that, or do you just prefer for the level of comfort with getting this buttoned up that the August meeting would be what you'd rather?
You know what, I would defer to you, Aaron, because your name is on it and you're closer in touch with how those meetings set up, planning meetings are going.
Okay, then I'll report back to you tomorrow and let you know if that's something we can get in there, and if we can make it even better, we can do the double whammy. You know.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other changes or discussion on this? Okay, then can I get a motion to approve this ordinance for Aaron and Julie to send to the commission?
I move to accept the ordinance as drafted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Aaron? We're ready for
You're gonna be unmuted to do the roll call. Ms. Douglas,
Yes.
Ms. McMahon,
Sorry, yes.
Ms. Lemmy,
Yes.
Ms. Lyons-Bricker,
Yes.
Ms. Purenhage, Ms. Acevedo,
Yes.
Mr. Regan,
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Hartwig,
Yes.
Mr. Gontina,
Yes.
Mr. Long, and Ms.
Yes.
Ms. Herzog.
Okay, so that's great. That moves on. And then the last thing on our agenda is the fall recycling event. We know that these events are getting a lot of traction. Usually our next meeting is September 23rd. So I don't know if we want to make that date now, or if we want to wait until our next meeting. Because usually we're doing this event around that time.
If I could just add, if we could hammer out a date, that would go a long way, because I would still have to pitch it with Sakura to make sure that there's no conflict and that we can arrange it. So I'd rather get this stuff on deck sooner if we can.
And I guess I should say, does everyone feel comfortable doing that? Because, you know, we'll be outside together with people.
It would be a similar, they do have COVID protocols, obviously. And so they're, you know, it would be well structured.
Yeah. I just want to say that we can definitely maintain social distancing, have our masks and gloves and sanitizing equipment. In most cases, you know, when we've done them before, most everybody is in their car. So it's just maintaining the social distance. So.
Yeah, the question would be library books. Given that the library is looking to establish protocols for accepting donations, cleaning them, so that might be something we would have to strike. But I do think the electronics recycling is the place where there is the demand, and the metal recycling. So that might be a way to kind of limit the scope and limit the number of volunteers huddled together under the tent in the driving rain.
Yeah, that's a good point. The one request that we did get from Sakura in setting these up would be to determine the materials. I'm not sure what you guys collected previous years. Books, it sounds like you did electronics and metal, but did you guys also do plastics? And because it would sort of, we'd have to tell them what we do. No,
We did the bulk plastics.
Okay.
And
the paper shredder.
The paper shredder.
I don't think we're going to be able to stop people from bringing books, even if we tell them not to. People are still going to bring books. The word's out. I think we'd be better off just taking the books.
Yeah, we could just recycle them. I mean, people don't know that.
Well,
I mean, if the library don't want them, yeah, we can recycle them. Yeah, but trying to change our message would probably be harder than just letting people bring their books.
Well, let's ask the library, see what they say.
Yeah, so maybe they have, you know, maybe by then they'll have some protocol established for recycling, or I mean, for collecting books. So.
If I mean, the state of the science now is they're not really that worried about transmission from sitting on objects. I mean, they just usually just let things sit for a couple of days and consider it okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have football to deal with. So my schedule is completely open it's like usually a Saturday from 9 to 1. Anyone wanting any particular day? Or Aaron, do you just want to talk to Sakura and say that we're open to doing an event on a Saturday in September? And
yeah, I can do that. What about that first weekend in October? Is that too late to be doing those? I mean, that gives us I'm sorry. Yeah, the Saturday, October 3rd.
that works too.
Yeah, we've done it in October.
Whatever day we choose is definitely going to rain.
Yeah.
Going to be the wettest, coldest day of whatever month that is.
Yeah, I have October birthday, and I never had a nice birthday, not one time. Well, nice birthdays with family, but never outside. All right, so
My only objection to the 3rd is I can't do it that day, but if that's a good day for everybody else, that's fine with me.
All right, well, they might offer a counter date, but that's an opening salvo. I'll go with October 3rd and see what they say.
Sounds good.
And Amanda, I'll keep you up to date with whatever they say in between meetings.
Aaron, do you think that we could collect styrofoam?
No, Sakura doesn't want it.
Okay.
Yeah, that stuff's messy and there's no market for it at all. Like you have to get mountains of it to make it worth anything. I know that stuff's terrible. It's just bad all around.
Oh, yeah.
What about the piles of plastic bags inside plastic bags that we all have in our garages?
Kroger or Meyer, they don't want them at Sakura either. So yeah, they tell you. I asked Sakura that, and they said they promptly told people to walk off the road a little ways and take them to Meyer.
I have a guilty confession to make. I've actually thrown some away.
This is being recorded.
Well, I think some of us did that at the beginning because we were, I would always take my reusable bags to the grocery store and I was told, please don't do that. I had to take plastic bags. And then what was I supposed to do with the plastic bags? Initially, people thought they were contaminated. So, yeah, I mean, but you know what? That does remind me of a question that I wanted to ask. Aaron, are there certain colors of glass right now that you're stockpiling that you don't have a broker for?
No, not that I'm aware of. In our last report, we didn't hear anything particularly.
Okay, because people were telling me that, sometimes they're just recycling their different colored glass instead of taking it in for the deposit to get the deposit back. And I thought I had heard something about a color or two being hard to get rid of.
Yeah, I know green glass is particularly difficult, even worse than like brown glass. But no, whatever they collect there, they sell as mixed glass.
Okay.
There's just less of a market for it, but it's really, really difficult to sort and actually get a clean stream from it.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there anything on any other updates, discussion that we want to have before we sign off and see? Oh, Chris.
I just have two things real quick. The Sierra Club is promoting Plastic Free July. So they're encouraging people to not buy plastic or refuse to take plastic. So they actually have information if anyone is interested on a couple of House bills. One, as I think most of you know, that right now in Michigan, cities are banned from banning plastic bags, but now there's a House bill that would banning plastic bags. And then there is also a House bill on and a Senate bill on expanding the deposit, the plastic bottle returns. So, and one more thing, and that is my daughter lives in Southfield, and they are a member of WROK, however you say that. And they have an interesting program we might want to think about. I'm just going to throw it out now and people can think about it. They are able to recycle clothing, textiles, and small household items in specially marked orange plastic bags on their trash day. And they say it keeps out, millions of pounds of those sorts of things out of the landfill. So just think about it, and we can talk about it more in September when we get together. But I just thought it was interesting. So.
Pam?
I just wanted to ask on the plastic, is that for single-use plastic that you were talking about, Christine, on the first one?
The Sierra Club?
The Sierra Club, what you're talking about, was that single-use plastic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shar, did you have something?
Yeah, speaking of textiles, does anyone know if the Goodwill and the Salvation Army and those places where you can donate clothing, did they bundle textiles that they can't use and sell them for recycling or anything? I mean, I got a dirty T-shirt. Do I put it in the donation or do I throw it out?
Yeah, you know what? I want to do another round of double checking on that. So for example, this program in Southfield, they do explain that anything that is not wearable or usable, it does go for rags, and it is sold for materials where people are looking for that sort of product. But I've been wondering the same thing. There's a St. Vincent de Paul near me, and I've been avoiding putting things that aren't still wearable in the donation, bin, because I wonder, I was told years ago that anything that wasn't wearable or usable was sold for rags, that there is still a market for that. But I haven't checked on that recently. Maybe if some of us go to some of these places, we could ask, but it's a good question. I have lots of things like that I would love to donate if I knew that they were actually going to be recycled instead of trashed.
I think that concludes our meeting. Do we need to have a vote and a roll call to end it? Okay. So good. Unless you guys want to keep
We got to
So is
entertain
there
that
a
motion first, right?
yeah, is there a motion to
Include the July 20th meeting of the Environmental Advisory Board.
yes. Is there a second?
Shar seconds. All right. Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. McMahon.
Yes.
Ms. Lemmy.
Yes.
Ms. Lyons Bricker.
Yes.
Ms. Pernhage. Ms. Acevedo.
Yes.
Mr. Regan.
Yes.
Ms. Hartwig.
Yes.
Mr. Gontina.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
And Ms. Herzog.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you in September.
Good seeing
It's good
everybody.
seeing you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.